Superfood. You've heard the word. But do you really know what it means? We're not talking about kale, quinoa, or your average antioxidant berry. This one, it's in a league of its own. Ultra rare, insanely expensive. Consumed by billionaires, guarded by chefs, hunted by criminals. You won't find it at your local store. You won't even hear about it in most health circles. It's quietly sitting at the very top of the global food chain, known only to the elite and those crazy enough to chase it. The journey to get it, nearly unbelievable. It spans continents. It takes years, decades to produce. And in some parts of the world, wars have broken out over it. People have gone to prison. Others have built fortunes. It's not just food, it's currency, it's culture, it's a dangerous obsession. Governments have banned it, black markets trade it like it's liquid gold, and yet barely anyone even knows what it tastes like. So when I finally got my hands on it, I knew I couldn't just eat it and move on. I had to understand the story. I had to know why this superfood was being praised like sacred treasure by some and dismissed as pure madness by others. And what I uncovered, honestly, I still don't know if I'm blown away or disturbed, but I do know this. It changed the way I see food, luxury, and what we're really chasing when we chase the best. You're about to find out what they don't want you to know. What makes this mysterious superfood more than just a bite. It's a window into a secret world. Once you enter it, there's no going back. Power hook end. You ever sit down and think about how weird it is that something like fish eggs can cost more than your rent? Like, I'm not even joking. Some of these caviars, man, they're selling for tens of thousands of dollars per kilo. It's nuts. I mean, we're talking about a spoonful that could pay for a whole vacation to Bali or get you a down payment on a used car. And it's fish eggs, eggs from fish. Let that sink in. So I went down this rabbit hole recently, right? I had this dude on the podcast, total expert, ranched sturgeon for like 20 years, traveled across Russia, Iran, Japan, you name it. And we just went deep on caviar. And my mind was blown. Like, I knew it was a luxury thing. Sure, you see it in the movies, Bond ordering caviar with champagne, high-end parties with little blindies and people in tuxedos. But I never thought about what it really takes to get that stuff, or why people are paying more for this than they do for gold per ounce in some cases. It's wild, man. The process is insane. First of all, the fish we get caviar from, sturgeon. Some of these things live to be 60, 70 years old. They're dinosaurs. I'm not exaggerating. They literally go back to prehistoric times. They've got this weird armored look to them. They don't have bones like we do. It's all cartilage, and they live forever. And the crazy part is it can take decades for one to mature enough to produce the kind of eggs that are used for high-end caviar. We're talking 20 years. 20 years of feeding this fish, monitoring it, keeping the water just right. That's an investment, dude. And here's the kicker. After all that time to get the eggs, traditionally they kill the fish. You hear that? Kill it. After all those years, it's not like they just scoop some eggs out and wish it well. It's over for the sturgeon. And that's not even getting into the poaching and black market stuff. There are people literally going to jail over caviar smuggling. In some countries, the sturgeon population has been decimated. It got so bad they had to put international bans on it. The beluga sturgeon, the one with the most prized caviar, illegal in the US for a while because they were going extinct. And here's where it gets even more trippy. So they figured out a way to milk the eggs without killing the fish. It's called stripping. There's this whole technique where they massage the fish or use a hormone that induces ovulation, and then they collect the eggs. And these are not some farmer hicks doing this in their backyard. We're talking about PhDs in biology, fish reproduction experts, people using ultrasound machines to scan the ovaries of these ancient fish. Imagine someone going to school for a decade to learn how to gently squeeze eggs out of a fish's belly. That's real. That's happening. So I asked this guy, like, dude, why do people even care about this stuff? What's the deal? And he just smiles and says, it's the texture, the rarity, and the ritual. And I'm like, okay, I kind of get it. There's something primal about it. You're eating something rare, something that takes decades to produce, something tied to tradition and status and weird old money vibes. And then I tasted some on the show, not gonna lie. It was incredible. I thought I'd hate it. I assumed it was gonna be all salty and gross like anchovies or something. But the good stuff, it pops in your mouth. It's buttery, a little salty, but in a good way. It's like a flavor you can't compare to anything else. It's not fishy, it's delicate. You feel fancy as hell eating it. But even then, I'm sitting there thinking, who the hell decided this was food? Like, Who was the first person who saw a big prehistoric fish, cut it open, saw a pile of black goo inside and said, yeah, I'm going to eat that. That's a brave human. Or maybe a desperate one. Probably both. It had to be some ancient dude by a river, starving and just trying everything. And then boom, discovered the luxury food of the gods. And this kind of thing isn't just about food, right? It's about psychology. It's about status. Like, we live in this world where people want to feel like they're part of some elite club. So when you're eating caviar at $10,000 a kilo, it's not just about taste. It's about flexing. You're saying, I can afford this. And there's this whole culture built around it. Luxury, exclusivity, scarcity. It's like the Rolex of food. You're not buying it because you need to tell time. You're buying it to tell people who you are. And look, there's nothing wrong with enjoying the finer things, but there's a weird line between appreciating something and worshiping it. Like, there's a company in the UK that makes white caviar from albino sturgeon, and they mix it with gold flakes and champagne. That's not food. That's just showing off. That's edible jewelry. That's when you've got so much money, you start eating glitter because you ran out of things to buy. And that's where it gets philosophical, man. What does it say about us that we'll raise a fish for decades just to take its unborn offspring and put it on a cracker for Instagram clout? It's kind of beautiful and kind of insane at the same time. We are the only species that does this. Chimps aren't out there eating gold-dusted ant eggs. Dolphins aren't fermenting whale milk for rare cheeses. But humans will do anything if it means getting a little social or cultural power. And here's the other part. Caviar isn't even nutritious. Like, it's got some protein, sure, some omega-3s, but nothing you can't get from a cheap can of tuna or a handful of walnuts. So the value isn't in the nutrition or the quantity or the sustainability. It's in the story. It's in the myth. That's what people are really paying for. The experience, the symbolism. That spoonful of eggs is a story you tell your guests, a memory you Instagram, a moment that makes you feel like a Roman emperor in a bathhouse sipping wine and plotting your next conquest. And there's this whole black market too. That's the dark side of it. Like I said, people are poaching sturgeon in the wild because the eggs are worth more than heroin in some places. In Russia and Eastern Europe, there are mafia networks involved in illegal fishing. Some sturgeons get caught and butchered before they even reproduce once. There's violence, corruption, pollution, everything you'd expect in a high-stakes commodity. But it's over fish eggs, man. Fish eggs. Wrap your head around that. And now they're starting to farm caviar all over the place. France, Italy, China, the US, and the purists are mad. They say it's not authentic, like it doesn't count unless the sturgeon grew up swimming through cold Caspian waters and listening to Russian folk songs or something. It's snobbery, but I get it. When you attach culture and identity to food, people get tribal. It becomes a war over authenticity. And in that world, price becomes proof. If it's expensive, it must be good. The thing about all this luxury food, man, is it makes you think about how strange humans are. Like, we assign value to stuff that's completely arbitrary sometimes. If you gave someone who's never heard of caviar a spoonful and didn't tell them what it was, half of them would probably spit it out. But if you tell them it's $25,000 a kilo and was harvested from a rare albino sturgeon that only ovulates once every 15 years in a mineral-rich river in Austria, suddenly it's the greatest thing they've ever tasted. It's all in the framing. That's what's so crazy. There's this psychological term for it, perceived value. And caviar is the ultimate example. You're not paying for how good it tastes. You're paying for what it means to have it. People get addicted to that, the feeling of exclusivity, the idea that they're experiencing something most people never will. And when you stack that on top of food, which is already so deeply tied to pleasure and memory, it becomes this powerful emotional trigger. I had this other guest on one time, a neuroscientist who was breaking down how our brains respond to luxury and rarity. And it turns out the same dopamine systems that fire off when you fall in love or win at gambling, they get triggered when you consume rare or expensive things. Your brain literally rewards you for it. So it's not just a rich person being pretentious. It's like chemically they're getting high off this stuff. And once you experience that kind of high from food, regular food just doesn't hit the same. But then there's the other side of me, man, the part that grew up eating bologna sandwiches and gas station burritos. And I'm just sitting there like, a $1 taco from a truck in LA hits harder than this whole spoonful of fancy fish eggs. Because it's real, it's hot, it's fresh, someone made it with their hands 2 feet away from you, and it fills you up. There's soul in that kind of food. Caviar doesn't fill you up. It doesn't nourish your body in any meaningful way. It nourishes your ego. That's a whole different stomach. But I don't hate it. That's the weird part. I kind of get it. There's something sacred about taking this ridiculous ancient process and preserving it. There's art in it. Like when you talk to these caviar masters, guys who've been doing it for generations, they treat it like wine or cheese. There's terroir, there's aging, there's storage, salting, technique, the way they handle the eggs, how gently they treat them. Dude, it's borderline spiritual. And you know me, I love when people go deep into anything, whether it's martial arts, elk hunting, psychedelics, or fish eggs. If you obsess over something and master it, I respect that. So I look at these caviar guys the way I look at jiu-jitsu black belts. You spent your life perfecting something very few people understand. That deserves some level of awe. But still, it's fish eggs, man. I keep thinking about how all this ties back to how disconnected we are from nature, too. Like, you look at a spoonful of caviar and you see luxury, prestige, all this status, right? But that's just one moment in a ridiculously long and ancient natural process. These sturgeon, man, they've been swimming in the rivers of the world since before humans even existed. Dinosaurs were still stomping around when sturgeons were laying eggs in muddy riverbeds. So when we're scooping those eggs onto a cracker in a high-rise in Manhattan, we're basically tapping into a living fossil. That's insane. And that kind of makes me respect the whole thing more, not less. Like, yeah, some of it is ridiculous. The prices, the flex culture, the gold flakes and all that. But at the root of it, there's something primal, something ancient. We've always been drawn to rare things, whether it's fire or spices or precious metals or now these little black pearls from the sea. There's a reason ancient royalty and emperors were obsessed with it. It's not just about taste, it's about touching something old, something timeless. But here's where it gets weird, man, because now with farming and biotech, we're kind of messing with that timeline. Like we've got lab-grown caviar happening now, not even from fish. People are synthesizing the texture and flavor in a lab with plants or cell cultures. And I get it from a sustainability point of view. That's a huge win. We're saving the sturgeon. We're lowering the environmental impact, maybe even making it cheaper, but it loses some of that mystique. You didn't wait 20 years for that spoonful. You didn't pull it from the belly of a river monster. You cooked it up in a biotech kitchen with a pipette and some agar. Is it the same thing? Technically, maybe, but spiritually, I don't know. And this is where my head goes down the rabbit hole, man. Like, what even is food anymore? We're already eating meat that's grown in labs. We're drinking milk that doesn't come from cows. We're heading into this future where almost everything can be replicated, except maybe the story. And that's what makes me think that even if lab-grown caviar tastes exactly the same, people will still pay insane money for the real stuff. Because it's not about taste, it's about legacy. There's this other thing I found out that really blew my mind. Some of the best caviar in the world today, it's coming from places you wouldn't expect, like China and Uruguay, totally breaking the stereotype that only Russia or Iran produces the good stuff. And it's because these countries invested in the right conditions: clean water, proper feeding techniques, ethical harvesting. They basically created sturgeon resorts, man. These fish are living better than most people. And it shows in the product. I tried some Chinese Kaluga Queen caviar once, and I was like, this is legit. You'd never guess it didn't come from the Caspian Sea. And that kind of shakes the whole system up. Because now, the old school caviar heads, they're getting challenged. The market's shifting. Prestige is no longer locked to a single region. It's becoming more democratic. But the purists don't like that. It's the same kind of thing you see in wine or even martial arts. When tradition meets innovation, there's always friction. And I kind of love that. That tension, that's where growth happens. But the deeper I went, the more I realized we're not just talking about food here. We're talking about identity. People who buy this stuff aren't just buying taste. They're buying a symbol, a lifestyle. The same way someone drives a Lamborghini, not just because it's fast, but because of what it says about them, that they've made it, that they're different. Caviar works the same way. And it's funny because it's still just eggs. Like, really think about that. You're spending thousands of dollars to eat something a seagull would swallow without blinking. But because of the context, because of the ritual, the rarity, the story, it becomes elevated. And it makes you ask, what other things in life are like that? How much of what we value is just narrative? It gets deep, man. I'm not even trying to be philosophical, but caviar made me think about the matrix we live in, the social one. The economy of perception. Because if someone tomorrow decided that sardines were the new gold standard and all the influencers and chefs got on board, we'd see a boom in gourmet sardine tastings. They'd be aged, smoked, salted just right, packaged in gold foil. People would be pairing them with fine whiskey and charging $500 a tin. Why? Because enough people agreed it was cool. That's the human brain. That's culture. We assign value where we choose to. And then we believe in it so hard it becomes real.